What I'm going to do now is hand over to Andrew, who will talk you through the judging process. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm just going to grab some water. Yeah. Thanks.
As I said earlier, last year was my first year as a judge, having been involved in other contexts for a number of years. And so it was a real learning experience for me. It was certainly an eye-opener in terms of the process and seeing that. I will try and give you a short flavour of my experience last year and talk to some of the points as well. So there was about 21 judges last year. The judges are set up in groups of 3, and 3 judges will read your submission. They'll do that individually first. So we have, I think we said earlier, about a month to read the submissions. And then we get together and work as a group and compare notes and compare scores. I had, just looking at that process, I had 17 submissions to read. So I think we talked about it before, but one thing I really wanted to emphasise was the time involved. I did a quick calculation this morning. There's about 500 pages, and if you imagine, if you see some of those text-heavy pages, I've mentored one submission a couple of years ago, and they hardly had any images at all. And I was just really trying to emphasise you're not going to be able to sit and read 30 pages. It's just not going to go in. That makes sense. So, that was a key point. At the end of that month process, we get through. We get together with the judges' retreat. 2 days to review the submissions and compare results. We all signed confidentiality agreements, and we would nominate if we had any conflicts of interest.
I'll just say that no one prints out any of the award submissions either, so they all stay online. The judges don't print them out, they just remain online.
And so we would not see any of the categories, or we wouldn't be part of discussions if we were involved in a business that was involved with our submission in a different category. Our profiles apparently, I haven't checked this yet, apparently all up on the awards website.
Yeah, they will be. We're still formalising the judging panel, so yeah, that will be. They will appear there, so you can actually see who the judges will be. And just note that when you have a site visit from a judge, that judge may not have judged your submission. It could be a completely different judge as well.
So. In most cases, it's your site judge, it's not your submission judge.
Yeah, you have to assume that randomly.
It's only happened, I judged for 3 years, only happened once where I've been the site judge and was judging that category. So yeah, it's unlikely they'll be.
I've had 2 of my site visits last year, I think, judged the category, but it's just a random way that falls. So what are we looking for as judges? We're looking for well-written and presented submission. So, I talked about 500 pages. It's critical that the information comes out, jumps out to you. It's really important that we get a flavour of your product when we're reading it. It's equally important that there are measurable goals, business plans and other sections, even the training. It's really important that the goals, the reasons for doing those are outlined in the submission. And then critically, because they were missed on so many submissions, reading through the outcomes of those, it's really important to report back about what the outcomes were.
And a good way to, to show those results, particularly like if you're answering about the staff training question, and you might have put some staff through customer service training, is you could actually have a testimonial from one of your visitors that sort of says, the customer service is excellent, we were treated the best way possible, and that just sort of supports that, your staff have undertaken that training, but the outcome is that you've got a really happy client base.
Yeah. I've actually put, some submissions, we put testimonials in the footers of each page as well, including, you put TripAdvisor and other testimonials as well. So we're looking for evidence of a well-run business, a financially well-managed, sound business, and evidence of strategic approach, awareness of your marketplace, Demonstrated flair and innovation. So often the difference between a good submission and a great submission that comes to top is it's something a little bit different, or they go the extra mile. To me, what stood out with the entries that won their submissions last year was the fact that they often they conducted best practice right across the business or right across the activity. A good example I was thinking about is in the events category. A lot of events rely on volunteers, but they don't traditionally invest in time. The best events, big events, have been running for 15, 20 years, and they were investing in their volunteers, not because they had to, but they knew they were giving back to the community and they were giving back to the event for next year. So that sort of activity really stood out. Industry knowledge, and again, passion and enthusiasm. Yeah. I've written down here the depth and information. So I think you said at the start, try and make notes, get your 5 folders now. There's often so many things that you can put in that you think of through the year. So really encourage you to try and pull all that information and make sure.
And that's also why it's good to start with the most difficult questions, because even if you can't answer them right away, you've already got them locked in your mind. And as you're doing your business on a day-to-day basis, go, oh, actually, that is a good example to answer that question. So jot it down on a piece of paper and chuck it in that folder.
So the top of that, it says sort of, so submissions that score well will score well. The logical, succinct answers. I often, again, I think the submissions that really stood out made me, as a judge, want to go and experience that. I wanted to go to that event. I wanted to go and experience. So I want to go. I keep going up the Hume and wanting to stop at Fowler's, and I keep never doing it, but I keep meaning to because they've just won Hall of Fame and stuff. Charts and diagrams that explain at a glance, and pictures to tell a story. So with all those words to read, it's like any other document that you're producing. If you can tell the story with the images, that's so much more powerful.
Yeah, there's an example I'll show you later, but just when you talk about your target markets, if it's like families, for example, support that answer with a picture that shows that families come or, children visit your property.
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely reading these late at night, including sort of stretching through into small hours, and the images certainly helped to break it up, so that's good. Evidence of great ideas and innovation. Quotes that back up an answer. They can be quotes from your customers, from industry peers, anything else. This day and age, testimonials on websites is so strong with an image of the person giving it, often on websites, but anything you can give which helps give credibility and helps give a different perspective on it would help.
And date the quotations, make sure they're dated. And it does, it's okay to have them labelled, but you don't have to. You could just say, an Oak Ridge client or Oak Ridge customer, but it must be dated. That's correct? Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but it helps show that when it was.
It certainly leads to credibility, I think.
It does.
Yeah, so it just gives it.
Does it have to get pulled in that?
Yes, obviously, it would. It needs to be within the qualifying period, which is this financial year.
That's why I'm saying dated.
Yeah.
It removes any doubt that,
But it could even be a post on your social media, like your Facebook, and you do a screen grab if you wanted to.
I suppose technically, if our customers reviewing your TripAdvisor, as long as their visit was in the qualifying period, I suppose, yes, if that makes sense. Yes.
I think it's a great idea to ask Julie for a quote, but make sure you don't have 10 quotes by Julie. I had one submission that had their R2B CEO quoted a ridiculous number of times, so make sure you mix it up and it's relevant to the question.
There's a list here on the right. Score. So submissions that score poorly or will score poorly for hard to read entries, meandering answers and waffle, missed questions or parts of questions. That's a really key one. I haven't had a chance to look at the new questions, but certainly there were some questions previously that had 4 separate points, and so as a judge, I have responsibility to go through and make sure that all those 4 separate points were
And another part of that,
addressed.
another part of that is the questions can sometimes be double barrel or triple barrel. So just make sure that you, read the question and sort of go, right, that's the first part of the question, the second part of the question, the third part of the question. So you're answering all 3 parts. I know that sounds hard because you're having to answer 3 questions in one, but that is the question, so just bear that in mind.
Promising submissions that lose steam, lost point because of broken rules, unsubstantiated claims, and irrelevant information. So, what struck me reading these yesterday when Mike was sitting through is that these things that Score and Qualify are all about the submission. None of them are about the business itself. So that's a really key lesson. It's about, you've got to distill what's good about your business in the submission, and you've got to do it.
And that one about promising submissions that lose steam, and that's generally the case because everyone starts off enthusiastically with the easy questions up front, and then they get to the last section, which is now labelled sustainability. It used to be called responsible tourism. That's the section that a lot of entrants struggle with. So perhaps take my advice that I mentioned earlier to start with those difficult questions first, so then the quality of your submission is strong all the way through. And not just strong at the beginning with the questions that you'll be able to answer easily anyway.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Another question on sustainability. Is it specific to environmental sustainability? Because
No, we'll go through that. There's 3 questions.
It's broader, but we will go through that one.
Sustainability in the local economy and the community.
Community.
And
You can put environmental.
There's a question around environment.
Yeah, it's more social responsibility and sustainability.
But that's one of the changes this year that's been
We'll
called.
change it back to what it was called the year before. So.
We'll go through that.
Okay, so the site visit we've talked about, just to clarify, I think we went through it before. The site visit judges are pulled from the same pool as the submission judges. However, they're often grouped by region, and so whether your site judge and region submission is just going to fall randomly. So they may or may not be the same judges. The site visit judge will be available in the retreat to be available for questions and things as well. So the experience that the site judge has had is available to the judges reading the submission. So the site visit, the purpose is to cross-reference. It's really about making sure that actually the experience is what the submission says it is, in essence. Meet the entrance and answer any questions, verify documentation exists, some personal experience to get a sense of business. Your site judge will contact you as an operator and make an arrangement. It's really important that both sides keep to that arrangement. Often, especially when they're grouped around regions, it will be set trips, so there won't be. I know I only had 2 days really when it worked that I could get up. I went up to Murray last year, so I didn't have much flexibility, but luckily it all worked out, so that was good.
What length of time are they usually on site?
They're going to be 90 minutes. I would suggest 90 minutes isn't long at all. So the site judge is going to need to go through and view all the documents. I would suggest, I know something that worked successfully for us entering and also going around, is to have those documents available, whether it's in a room or on a table. We got a boardroom together and literally filled the boardroom full of documents. And that certainly helps as you walk in as a judge. It makes it easy to go through those.
With a tour operator, do you join part of the tour, or do you want to
I haven't
It's not,
done one of those.
Yeah, I've judged tour operators. It's about your submission and all your operations. So if you've got a vehicle available to show them, that's good, but you're not going to take them on any part of the tour. So.
It's too hard, really.
Yeah, I will say that for businesses like entrants that go in like major events, that have already passed, you're not going to be able to showcase the event. So, excuse me. You might like to have some video to support the experience, so you could have, excuse me, a YouTube clip to, I guess, show people's emotions and experiences and that sort of thing.
Or a selection of images. Just be aware of the site judge's time. So I always suggest that you request a site visit and then you work out how long it's going to take. So as Andrew said, you will go through your submission with a highlighter and you will mark the things that you said you've got and you will make sure they're out to the site judge. So,
And I think tell your staff that the site visit is coming, the site judge is coming, so that they know. Obviously, present yourself in the best fashion, obviously. What worked quite well with the site visit conducted last year is that they actually had a 90-minute program scheduled. They discussed with me before we started, this is what I think we're going to do. He'd done before, so he knew to expect. That was really helpful for me.
Yeah, sometimes you would turn out and people would go, what do you want to see? And you're like, well, you need to show me. So it's much better if you manage it that way, that you can introduce the experience to the judges.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, is it generally 20 points? Some site visits are not judged. It's just a confirmation that what you put in your submission does actually follow through, but judges will go in there allocating that 20 points from the word go. So they're really just looking for things that have been missed and take points off from there. So if what you've said in your submission actually does take place, then it could be an easy 20-point win.
Can I add, just make sure you know the 4-week period of the judging. Please think about, like, if you're going to be away for half of that, let us know beforehand. It was quite frustrating for some of the judges. I know one had to travel a long way and then had to go back and do it again, just to out of courtesy for people's availability. But if you could try and think ahead and work out if someone could cover for you, or just to make sure it's easy for them.
So the site visits usually, if it closes off on August 24th,
Yep.
then they're obviously the submissions are all read.
Judging starts at 28.
28.
Yeah, for a month, August. Yeah. And they're in your notes there. The time, if you look at the key dates. Yeah.
So some of that is in the school holidays, but at least if you could just think about how you would cover yourself so the judge isn't too inconvenienced. I mean, they've got to work around your program, but that was just some feedback from some of the judges, particularly ones who have to travel a long distance. You want to at least, if you're going to the Murray, you'd like to do the 5 or 6 you have to visit in the one go. You'd want to do it over 2 days. And if someone says, no, I just can't, can you come back? That's hard for the judge to get back up there. They're all voluntary, the judges.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say, in saying that though, sometimes there's circumstances that the day that they're coming is not going to work for you, like a year closed usually, or whatever it is. And there is flexibility with the judges, so don't get too scared that you have to take a time that's not going to present you.
no, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just saying bear in mind it's a two-way thing.
Yeah, two-way thing.
And flag it in advance, or at least talk to Julie and give the feedback. And it's got to be easy for both parties.